Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, where I get a chance to chat with luminaries in eDiscovery and related areas. This broadcast is sponsored by Reveal Brainspace, the industry's leading AI eDiscovery platform. Don't forget to subscribe to watch me, George Socha, weekly with leaders in eDiscovery. Thank you for tuning in.
Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. I am George Socha. I head up brand awareness at Reveal. This week, we are broadcasting live from ILTACon 2023 in Orlando. On each episode of eDiscovery Leaders Live, I get the chance to chat with luminaries in eDiscovery and related areas. Past episodes are available on the Reveal website. Go to revealdata.com, select resources, then select eDiscovery Leaders Live. My guest for this episode is Jessie Torres. Jessie is Chief Strategic Counsel at McDermott, Will Emery. Jessie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, George.
It's great to have you here. It's great to catch up.
Yeah, got to sit and chat a little bit, which is nice. A lot of times these things we don't have that time.
And between the last time you and I met in person and now, you've had a change.
I have. I was a partner and director of eDiscovery at my prior firm at Berger Singerman, and for about 2.5 months ago, I was fortunate enough to be asked to join McDermott, Will Emery as the Chief Strategic Counsel. It's been incredible. Just I'm in early stages, so I'm still learning, the ropes of what we're doing, and have a phenomenal team, bigger team. So it's pretty exciting.
Chief Strategic Counsel, what does that mean?
Essentially, on the org chart, I basically oversee the McDermott Discovery, what we call MW Discovery globally. Mm-hmm. So we have 14 offices in the U.S., 7 in Europe, and 1 in Singapore. And I'm working with, I'm actually working with teams right now in Germany and England, as well as the bulk of our work is stateside though. And so I have 2 key people who have been with McDermott a long time. I was very fortunate to join with Kiri Paley and Martha Laux, so Martha. And
she is a past guest on
this
program. Yep.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
She is.
So we, very fortunate to get to work with them. So the 3 of us basically are like the 3-headed monster, and we each have our various roles and just keeping it going. McDermott really has built a wonderful internal eDiscovery department that works well. It's efficient. It's good for clients. It's good for the business side. And it's really those 2 were driving, and I'm fortunate enough to get to play a part in that now. So it's very exciting. Congratulations. Thank you.
And that's a big step up in terms of scope and responsibility, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. Having extra help. I think in my prior role was at a mid-sized firm, and so we had, I sort of wore more hats, and so here, having Carrie and Martha from the operational side and the technical side allows me to focus on driving the internal business that is McDermott Discovery. I spend a lot of time in our offices. I've been in Chicago, DC, LA, Chicago, DC, and New York. And my next trip is to Boston and then LA.
Good.
So
you've got a ride circuit, so to speak.
Yeah. It's a little bit of they're jokingly calling it the roadshow. How's it going? The first 6 months is but it's wonderful. The partners and the associates are all very welcoming. Oh, you're coming to town. We'd love to meet with you and chat about what you guys are doing and how we can continue to work together. So for me, that's been really, really eye-opening, because I think when each firm has its culture, and McDermott has a really good one.
I was just about to go there, because when we were chatting earlier this week, you were talking about the culture at McDermott. So expand on that.
Yeah, I think, when, my history is obviously I was in the vendor side for about 6 years, and I was director of review management at my last post before I joined my prior firm. And so I got to work with a lot of different large firms. Probably 17 of the top 20, I was working directly for lead partners of litigation or heads of litigation for, the who's who of the top 20 firms. And you see different cultures when you're dealing with them, as you know,
Yep.
and from your practice, right? And so when I joined McDermott, I was just incredibly, and I was told by a former partner of mine at Berger that it's a great culture. But once you get there, everybody's very open to helping you. It is a top down thing. Ira Coleman is our chairman. He was based in Miami. Has certainly put a process in place where you do feel very valued, and it's just different than some of the other firms where I had, it's when you kind of know the culture when something goes wrong.
Right. And then you see how people really get treated.
Correct. And I've been, and I've seen even in my short time at McDermott, when something went wrong, it was just handled the right way. And it was, I was incredibly surprised, even though people told me, it's an amazing culture. It really is.
The main office is Chicago, right?
Yeah, the main office is Chicago. The firm started there, I think, just under 100 years ago. And very, very big offices in DC and New York. And then Miami, we have 2 floors downtown. Beautiful offices overlooking the bay. It's a nice spot too. But so we have a few of our leaders are in Chicago, but then we have a few leaders actually based in Miami. One of whom moved from Chicago to Miami because I guess he was tired of the cold.
Because there is, of course, always the risk that at that physical remove, you find yourself in an outpost. But from what you were saying earlier in our discussion earlier, that's definitely not the case. You're not isolated off in the hinterlands.
No, it's great. Actually, my direct supervisor, who's the CEO, is based in Miami. He goes to Chicago, but he's based in Miami. So it's an easy walk up the stairs if I need to ask him something, which is wonderful. Yeah, but the team is actually, the bulk of the team is actually in Chicago and the Chicago area and the DC area.
Okay.
With a couple of people in New York, one in Florida, 2 in Florida, and a couple of people in California. So it's about 38 people.
How has the transition been from a mid-sized firm to a large firm?
It's been wonderful in the sense that you kind of carry what I mentioned before about working with some other big firms. You kind of carry this, oh yeah, sure, the culture is going to be fantastic, and then you're like, let's see when we get there. But immediately when I got there, everybody was so welcoming and helpful. So it took me a second just to realize, oh, this is the process. The biggest transition for me is been what I mentioned earlier about wearing fewer hats.
Right.
So I have more time to develop and work on things that I absolutely love doing. So I think that's been really, really exciting.
Are there some examples of those things that you're at liberty to share?
Sure. I mean, part of my work is traveling to these cities and working with the partners and developing ideas for products that we hadn't thought of. So that's something I'm working on now with my team, and Martha and I were working on something recently where it's and with other people from the team where we're developing a product to actually provide an e-discovery service we don't currently provide, but that we can. It's just we hadn't really thought about it or worked through that process. And now with me here, I have the time to do that, and they can still do what they're doing. So there's product development in terms of for clients. There's also the internal driving, making sure we're driving the business internally first before we go to say a ALSP or third-party vendor.
Yep.
I mean, and you and I joked to you about this. It's true. One of the things I do in these visits is I mention to them, we use the big behemoth that everybody uses in REL, but we also use Reveal, and we really, really like it for investigations and brain space. And invariably, what I found on these trips is I don't even say Reveal, I say Reveal brain space, because people who've even if they've used other products in their brain space.
Right.
And so we use it for that and encourage the people on, say, the white collar side or some of the other investigatory kind of cases that, hey, maybe we want to load this in Reveal and take a look at it that way. So there's that side of it, and then there's just the people management side of it, because that's the little bit of a change because it's more people. So, but it's but managing people is managing people. It's
right.
It's treating them right and understanding them. It's just more of a.
So I have a question, a tangential, if you will, question about that distinction between investigation and litigation. Some people I talk with view those as two almost completely separate worlds. It has always felt to me from my days of practice on that if you were to do a Venn diagram of those two, investigation and litigation, there would be much more overlap than there would be separation. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it depends on the type of case it is. I think there are investigations that are very much overlap litigation in terms of e-discovery, in terms of the collection, the data processing, and even how you're using or going to use the data, right? The goal is to get to the key data using AI, for example, right? And you want to, whether you use, load it all in, and we had a conversation about this yesterday in a group chat. Whether you load it all in and want to go unsupervised learning and look at the clusters, or you start coding and kind of to push the key documents and try to find those key documents.
Right.
I think there's a lot of overlap there. If it's that type of case where the investigation is going to dovetail into some form of litigation, I think probably the ones that maybe are, even though they're litigious, that where maybe that diagram may pull apart a little bit, is like in those employment cases. Those employment investigations, you're really kind of usually trying to find very specific things, because you're trying to force the other side to settle, right? So it's like pre-litigation to me on the employment side, but on the investigations and say even the obviously the DOJ and all those sort of federal ones and the FINRA and all, I think they overlap a lot.
Now you are involved as well with a charity.
Yeah, a few years ago, I was lucky enough to be invited to join the advisory committee of Life Preservers Project. And lifepreserversproject.org is the website, and it was founded by Shauna Pedersen, who's and of course Maribel Rivera, who we're very good friends with, and our director is Mike Q. And it's a charity that was founded 14 years ago to raise money for programs for victims of human trafficking, survivors of human trafficking. And they started doing art therapy programs in the New York area. And most of the money that was raised or is raised, it goes to those types of programs or some sort of like go bags or things like that in various centers. About 2 years ago, I was asked to join the board. So I'm now on the board as the chairman of the sponsorship committee. And so I get to, my co-chair is, at the time was, Reveal's own Kat Casey. So I get to know her well in working with her, with the charity. And it's just a phenomenal group of people. I think, I don't think I realized how much more I would get out of just working with the group when I started it. And it ended up, it's like my own little community. It's been amazing.
Is the focus of that group still on the New York City area, or has it expanded? It's expanded
a bit. We have an advisory committee member now in South Florida with me, Emily Barkowitz from Ackerman, and so she's helping me, and we're working with both Miami-Dade and Broward County, and we've talked to them about maybe working on some art therapy programs down in South Florida, because the biggest areas for human trafficking are largely New York, Miami, LA, and then kind of the Texas border. I mean, Houston, or then along the Texas border. Those are, the really, really most needy areas. So when we expanded to Miami, that was the idea: is, hey, can we do some stuff down here? So we've had not just had meetings, we've actually visited the Human Trafficking Center in Miami, which is a completely secure facility and nondescript. You would not know where it is. And the Miami-Dade State Attorney, Catherine Fernandez-Rundle, had us allowed us to come visit, which was phenomenal. They have like a floor with attorneys, a floor with victim advocates, a floor with police. They have their own private clinic, and they have beds, and they have their own facility basically to help victims, and a room with clothes, and that's where we're just hopefully getting close to doing something with them. But for us, it's all about awareness. It's awareness, and then the programs to help.
So when Life Preservers gets involved, what is that organization's role?
The primarily the funding goes to the art right now, to the art therapy programs, where they become art programs, because I think art therapy has a certain certification you need, but they're art programs. Like we asked Shauna, she's like, it's art programs. Okay. But it really is these programs within 2 locations in New York, where it helps fund to put the programs on for the survivors.
And so what are the art programs like?
They're basically what when you have survivors, you teach them how to use the art to sort of express themselves in a way that they maybe can't or don't. And so the programs are really designed to help them cope, process, really just go through that process of using the art to sort of express themselves, and maybe in ways they weren't or can't. So it's all about healing, or trying to heal.
For people who want to help out, where do they go? What do they do?
Oh, for Life Preservers, lifepreserversproject.org. You can go online. You can donate. We do events throughout the year. We've done some. We've actually done some in Miami, but most of them are in the New York area. So, and I always encourage people, even if it's not lifepreserversproject.org, if it's some other charity that you're working with. I know for me, having that community is incredible, because from working in e-discovery, sometimes the pressures are normal and you're fine, and sometimes they're really high.
Right.
And the fact that, and I actually did a CLE on this, on volunteering, and how it's helps people sort of connect and have this sort of community within their industry, because we're a little industry. So
we are. Yep.
And to have that little group is a really nice thing. So there's, like I said, so for me, what the benefit was, I really wanted to help with the charity, but it's actually become this even
the charity's
bigger.
helping with you.
It really has.
Yeah.
It really has.
So switching gears, how is Ildacon been for you?
This is my first one. So
what do you think?
I'm really impressed. It's a little bit different than Legal Week, and obviously when we do the UFE Discovery Conference, it's like an education session, right? I think we're all faculty, right? And we get the UFO, which I love, but it's still my favorite one, I have to say. Shout out to Bill Hamilton. But Legal Week definitely has a little heavier e-discovery. This one, I'm running into people from my firm's IT department that I didn't realize they would be here. My old firm's IT department, I ran into one of the guys. I was like, it's like, and so there's definitely a little bit more of that, but there's enough e-discovery folks to make it worth it. It's fun.
And your session here?
My session here was yesterday. It was really interesting, because you have to apply to like the topic you want to discuss. So it was just a little bit different. And so I applied to a session on effective communication. And I wanted to do that because so often at conferences when I speak, I'm speaking about very technical things, whether it be AI or search terms or sanctions at the last UF conference. It's
Mhm.
something much more detailed than I thought. I was a professor for many years, and I thought, I like that. I like that topic, and it went really well. We had a fantastic group of panelists, and we were just trying to give people takeaways on, how they are going to better communicate within legal technology, right? Because there's this big overlap, and really, disconnect is really what it is in a lot of ways. Or gap is the word I'm thinking. There's this gap sort of between the legal and the technology, and how we communicate, as you know, and so we just wanted to give people ideas of, hey, here are ways that you can close that gap, and here are some takeaways that you can use, and it was wonderful. We were on time. We had to cut questions off.
That's good.
Yeah.
Shows interest.
Yeah. We had about 120 people.
Nice.
So it was a good group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Some of the takeaways from that session?
Some of the takeaways from that session were, each of us came up with one that we had in a slide at the end. And I used, mine was advice that I was given right before I went to law school. I was in software sales, and our senior vice president had said to me, I'd asked him for advice, and I was very much into Stephen Covey and sharpening the saw and begin with the end in mind, which is two of the 7 habits of highly effective people, right? And I said to him, what else can I do? I've read several books on these topics. And he said, the only thing that I can tell you is think, then speak. And he purposely paused. And so that was my advice to the group was, when you're trying to communicate effectively, it's okay to think.
Right.
It's okay to pause and formulate your thoughts. You don't have to know the answer, because in legal technology, we're solution people, right? We want to answer.
We want to solve
We
problems.
want to solve problems. And the truth is, sometimes you need to think about the problem before you start solving it. Another piece of advice was, clarity and forethought. It's okay to get clarity, ask questions, get a really big picture of things, and think with the end in mind, and start planning in reverse. And you can only do that if you ask the right questions, and if you are patient enough to make sure you're drilling down to where you need to drill down to. Because the last thing you want to do in any projects we run or anything we do is get somewhere down the road and go, what now?
Or wrong road.
Wrong road. Yeah, I'll behave and not use an expletive, but you can think of a few things that people will say when
Right.
oh boy. Yeah.
Well, what next from here?
Next from here, as far as ILTA is.
ILTA, UF Law Conference, your road show.
Yeah, road show, sure. ILTA, I'm here through today. I'm going to go see, hopefully it's incredible. What is the topic? What is it called? Come on, tell me what it's called, George.
You're fishing.
No, your topic.
It's a session on
portable language models.
Yeah.
So that's my next. I wanted to see if you would say it. I remember it. No, so the portable language model, I think with you, with Scotty Milner, and a few other people. I think I know. Yep. And I've used the time here to meet with people who McDermott is already working with. So I really wasn't looking for new vendors. It was more, let's spend time to get to know people, building relationships, because that's what these things are about. Right. Next will be Boston, and then a certain thing in Chicago in late September.
Right.
Because
there is a big event there.
There's a big event there. Then LA, San Francisco. I may speak at the Masters Conference in Charlotte at the end of the year. And then UF will be around the corner, and League will be around the corner. So that's sort of what I see happening. And with the firm, it's we're running near year end, so now I sort of switch into evaluation mode, because our calendar year ends September 30th. So we're doing our evaluation. So that's gonna eat up a little bit of time too.
It will. It certainly does.
It's a few people.
Yeah.
Just a few people
Yeah. Well, Jesse, thank you for joining us this week today.
today.
It seems like a whole week just in one day, doesn't it?
It does. Yesterday,
Yeah.
especially.
Oh, yesterday. So Jesse is Chief Strategic Counsel at McDermott. I am George Socha. This has been eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, George, for asking me to sit with you. I always love talking to you.
Likewise.